Hello everyone, welcome back. I'm Kris. Before I get started, I just want to thank YouTube and the big picnic community that they had. The big gathering that we had, it was about 244 million, 614 people that showed up. It was nice. And it was the big picnic slash the killer bee eating competition, and it was just, how many handfuls of killer bees can you eat, and you were penalized if, as you were transferring them into your mouth, one flew away. There was a lot of good people that died that day, but fortunately, because of that, they had to call it a draw, and I didn't actually have to go. So we all win in the end, except for the people who were horribly killed. But they signed up for it. So this is part 2. This is part 2 of the horror behind a webcam, part 2. If you saw the first video, which you should, because I will have released it earlier today. I'm going to release them both on the same day. I went off on a little bit of a tangent, but it needed to be said. So I'm sure this will be no different. I might stop it. This is a little bit longer. I'll try not to stop it as much, but my feelings on this. And I want to say I appreciate all the subscribers, the comments going back and forth. I really do like the community. I like the comments. I apologize if I don't get to your comments. If I just give it a thumbs up, but I do try to reply when I can. But I do sincerely appreciate everyone and the support and everything. And I thank you for even watching anything that I'm putting out here. So, please subscribe to the channel. YouTube is getting into hiring hitmen and hit women, because they do believe in equality. And they're telling me if people don't subscribe to your channel, we will start offing them. And I'm like, I understand. So I'm just telling you, it's a YouTube thing. It's not me. So subscribe to the channel, like it, leave a comment, check the description. I leave stupid comments in there. If you have any recommendations, then consider them. And just, if you like it, I might like it. If you hate it, I might like it. If you really like it, I might hate it. So who knows, right? So let's just go ahead and get into this video, because I'm already feeling the anger brewing.
Haven't seen part 1, watch that first. It's linked in the description below.
Just quickly, if you're watching this video first and you don't want to watch the first one, understand that part 1 covers suicide. So there's a lot of suicide talk in there, and you should watch the first video. Even if you don't want to watch my reaction to it, you just want to watch the original video, do it. The link is in the description. I link all the original videos in there. Watch the video and then come back and watch this reaction, or however you want to do it. But it is a legit... My dog's reading. It is a legitimate topic that is sad.
While someone within the shadows of anonymity lurked, more and more people were lined up as targets. And while a vast majority of people would never allow themselves to be urged into something as severe as taking their own life, some were. And this unknown user would be looking for them. Before we move on to the episode, I'd like to thank this video's sponsor, Keeps. Keeps is a product designed to help men who are concerned about losing hair, or concerned about the hair they're already losing. You used to have to go to a doctor and get a prescription, then go to the pharmacy and wait in line just to have, like, the hottest pharmacist you've ever seen walk up to help you. Now you gotta tell her what you're there to pick up, and you whisper it to her, a bit embarrassed. She repeats it so loudly that it rivals a train whistle. People outside heard her.
No offense, I'm just going to fast forward.
Stay hairy, my friends. Thanks for listening. And now, on to the episode.
No offense to you, Mr. Gavagan. I'm not sponsored. I appreciate the ad. But, you know.
In 2008, a young university student named Nadia Kajuji embarked on a new adventure. She had been accepted to Carleton University in Ottawa, along with many other top-tier universities. She'd worked hard to get where she was, and with that came a sense of positivity that is hard to crush. After all, she had been one out of only 100 people accepted into Carleton's public affairs and policy management program. She was truly living what seemed to be the dream, until she quickly fell in love and got pregnant. The news of a pregnancy was not well met. In fact, Nadia had taken the day after pill in order to avoid that exact result, but it was too late. As if she needed any extra stress, the man she had been in love with swiftly left her, and now she was to deal with her situation alone. What was she going to do in terms of schooling now? She knew she wasn't ready for a child. She knew this would affect the rest of her life, and that was what was most haunting. Whatever choice she made would be permanent and something she had to live with. These thoughts plagued Nadia's mind and pushed her into a deep depression as she felt as though she had problems with no solutions. The stress amounted to such an extreme that Nadia had a miscarriage. This tragic reality only worsened the depression she already felt, as all choice had been taken from her. Nadia began to isolate herself from her peers, and as a star student, this was far from the norm for her. She struggled to attend her classes and naturally worried that she would not pass the semester. In an effort to work on herself and her issues, Nadia began seeing the university psychiatrist. However, on March 1st, 2008, Nadia Kajuji posted on one of the websites asking for a suicide method that would make her death ideally look like an accident. Nadia promptly received a response from a user named Cami. Cami claimed to be suicidal as well.
Is she not wanting it to look like a suicide so that maybe to, like, disrespect or shame the family? That's my guess.
And as she had knowledge as a nurse, thought hanging would still be the best.
A nurse?
Cami and Nadia had a rather extensive back and forth, as Nadia was insistent on jumping off a bridge into a mostly frozen river. Nadia was concerned of failing an attempt and then remaining mangled or causing her family more trouble. This was an opportunity Cami made sure to jump on to reiterate the pros of hanging. Cami truly relied on Nadia's feelings, as she said things such as, "I wish we both could die now while we are quietly in our homes tonight," with a smiley face. Cami consistently underlined the fact that this was a team effort and that they were fully in it together, further encouraging Nadia to act. In fact, in their correspondence, Nadia stated, "We are together in this," to which Cami replied, "Yes, I promise." However, Cami was very concerned that Nadia's method of jumping off the bridge would not work, and she insisted on a backup plan just in case. As always, hanging was the method of choice, the only infallible way to escape misery. Cami told Nadia, "If you go to a Home Depot or Menards or any kind of home improvement store, get yellow nylon rope about 8 feet or about 3.5 meters and about 1/2 inch thick or about 3 centimeters. That is all you need, and look around your apartment for somewhere to hang from. I can help you with the cam when you need to." On March
I can help you with the cam. What a
9th, Nadia decided it was time to go with her plan of jumping off the bridge. Before leaving to kill herself, she emailed a roommate and told her she was going ice skating. Her body was found 6 weeks later, wearing the skates still. It is unclear whether the cause of death was drowning or hypothermia. Once more, there seemed to be no repercussions for Cammy. On the sites, Lee Dow...
Did they even search for Cammy?
maintained a rather silent and somewhat invisible presence. As with Mark, Lee Dow did not comment much publicly, but rather told posters to check their email. This made her far harder to trace, and members like Blay couldn't truly gauge the intentions of Lee Dow, who consistently kept mentioning she was a 20-something nurse from Minnesota. The posts Lee Dow commented under were always the ones in the most rush end of their lives. She specially aimed to find the most desperate and naive. For reasons unknown, in 2006, Lee Dow disappeared from the site. All those who corresponded with her...
Hopefully, Lee Dow decided to see what it felt like to put that rope around his or her neck. Scumbag.
Came to the same morbid conclusion. She must have finally killed herself. Needless to say, many had formed a bond with Lee Dow, seeing her as a friend, or at least someone who cared for them in a genuine way. However, Lee Dow did not stay away for long. Those who had been speaking with her had begun to speak to each other, and her stories did not line up. In private messages, Lee Dow was still trying to convince some to kill themselves, and when others wanted to speak with her on the phone, there was always a reason why she couldn't. Something was not adding up, and her own supposed friends were beginning to get answers. This is when the users who interacted with her began to think she was getting high off the suicides of others, or that it at least provided somewhat of a thrill to be the cyber angel of death. The main recurring factor that outed Lee Dow was that she continued to make suicide pacts, but somehow it was the other parties who suddenly became inactive or disappeared. She constantly re-emerged. Celia Blay continued to monitor the situation and tried to make as many people as possible aware of Lee Dow and her strategies, but it was impossible to know how many emails
She's
or
a very
private
good
messages
woman.
were being...
Sorry, I hate talking over. She's a very good woman if you watch part 1.
Sent, and to whom? In fact, Celia Blay truly tried her very best to stop Lee Dow from getting vulnerable people to kill themselves. She took all the evidence she'd gathered to the police and showed them the conversations that were ending lives. Unfortunately, the police did not take the matter as seriously as they should have. Nonetheless, Blay continued to monitor the ASH.
I don't know if I'm mad that the cops don't take it as serious, but on the other hand, they do have a lot to deal with. So sometimes when you go to a police station, if there just isn't much going on, they might say, why not? But if there's a shooting or a bomb at a school, they're going to be like, look, we just go away. You know, you wish that they would investigate all things, or at least have someone that could just look into it. But I understand it's not always the police's fault. It's you can't. Why didn't they look into it? Well, they're looking into a lot of things. They have to also. They have so much manpower. They have to start sifting through what is a real harm to society. And yes, that is a harm, but that's a harm on a one-on-one level. And they could have a gunman out there just shooting people, or as I said, a bomb in a school or a bomb on a bus, or so they have to maximize not maximize, but they have to go for the threat level that does the maximum damage. And in something like this, they're probably looking at it like, it's just a random person on the internet affecting one person. Yeah, but still, it's one person trying to convince one person or multiple people to commit suicide. I'm sorry for rambling. This is just something that really bothers me.
and alt.suicide.methods. In fact, in 2007, Blay found herself a partner in tracing Lee Dow, a 35-year-old woman named Catlow from Wolverhampton, England. Lowe was personally invested in outing Lee Dow, as a friend of hers had almost committed suicide after entering into the now formulaic suicide pact with Lee. Lowe decided to go undercover in order to extract as much information as possible in terms of who Lee Dow really was and why they consistently encouraged suicide as well as instructed it.
Because they're a dick.
Lowe posted emitting the vibe of someone who had had enough or was close enough to the ledge that a slight nudge might suffice.
Nudge, nudge. Do it, stupid.
In 2008, Lowe sent an email to a user named Falcon Girl. She asked for a good place to swing. Using the Falcon Girl account, someone named Cammy D told Lowe about the best method to effectively hang oneself. Cammy added, "I think you said you have a webcam. That would help a lot too." In none of their exchange did Cammy...
A webcam won't help someone commit suicide. It just makes you get to watch them die.
Try to persuade Lowe to rethink
I'm getting
her
angry
suicidal
again.
Thoughts. In fact, it seemed as if she always were prepared to tell people how exactly to kill themselves. Cammy consistently checked on Lowe to see if she was ready. However, her persistence gave her away. Cammy signed off the same way Lee Dow did, by saying, "Hugs." At this point, Blay believed that this Lee Dow character
Same person.
had convinced over 50 people to kill themselves. Lowe and Blay continued to monitor the situation, documenting everything they could find. Lowe continued to interact with Cammy, and in what would turn out to be one of the biggest leads in the case, Cammy told Lowe she knew of 4 people who hanged themselves. Upon further questioning, Lowe asked if Cammy had seen anyone do it, and Cammy replied, "No, just one. He asked me to watch as he was all alone. I didn't want to think it was some perverted ploy of his, but after many hours of talking, I agreed and watched him die, so he would not die alone." Lowe asked how old the man was. He was 32, just like Mark Drybrow. This was a massive development, as now Cammy and Lee Dow were directly connected. Lowe and Blay continued to work in order to get Cammy's trust. Lowe said she was ready to hang herself, but she needed help with what type of rope was needed. She insisted that Cammy get a webcam so they could see and hear each other. That's when Lowe found out that Lee Dow, Cammy, and Falcon Girl were all the same person, and namely a man who definitely was not in his 20s. Lowe asked why he had pretended to be a woman, and he responded, "Mostly 'cause if and only if there were any legal consequences for my helping anyone, they would come looking for a girl." Blay then took his information to another ASH user, Griffin, who had worked in telecommunications. Within days, Griffin connected Falcon Girl's and Lee Dow's emails to a server in Faribault, Minnesota. In their continued correspondence...
So when he was Dow, he did say he was a nurse from Minnesota, but he made it a woman. If you're going to say you're a woman, why would you give the state you're in? I'm in Illinois. I'm not going to say I'm a female in Illinois. I would say like I'm a female in Florida. You know what I mean? It doesn't make any sense. It's just stupid. I've never wanted to see what the inside of this person's skull looks like and open it up with a sledgehammer. I'm furious.
Cammy made a mistake that would cost them. The header of their email contained a name: Bill Melkert Dinkle. Through a wild moment of luck, Blay, while talking with...
That's actually a really cool little the semi V-shaped little waterfall kind of thing. That's really cool. Huh. I've never been to Minnesota. That's really cool. Got sidetracked.
Customer
Made
found
me feel
out they
good.
lived near Faribault and was friends with the deputy sheriff in Minneapolis. Unfortunately, Faribault ended up being outside of his jurisdiction and instead suggested to contact the Internet Crimes Against Children Task Force. Blay did so and managed to get in touch with Sergeant William Hyder, part of the St. Paul Police Task Force. Suddenly, things were moving quickly, as just the next day, the Ottawa police called the Faribault police asking about Melkert Dinkle. They had called in reference to the disappearance of Nadia, whom they at the time did not know was dead. Their concern with Melkert Dinkle was that they believed someone who lived at his residence had committed a suicide pact with Nadia and might act on it. Ironically, at the time this occurred, Melkert Dinkle was on a family vacation. However, now Melkert Dinkle was on the map, and a family vacation would not shield him from the incoming investigation. Who even was Melkert Dinkle? Why did he have so much time on his hands, especially time dedicated to convincing young people to kill themselves? Ironically, he was a resident nurse, who was also married to a nurse, and they had 2 daughters. Melkert Dinkle's bizarre practices had begun long before he had created his online personas. In fact, he had gotten in trouble with the Nursing Board of Minnesota a few times. Once in...
Do you think if you put a rope around his neck, right, and you throw it over a tree branch, right? I'm talking 1800 style, what they did not do to white people, and you were to just start pulling, do you think he'd be like, oh, sweet release? Or do you think he would cry and fight like a baby? What a scumbag. Oh, I hope he's in jail. I hope he gets some sort of a metal soap that's like a razor blade, and he goes down and just starts skinning him or cuts off his genitals. This guy really makes me mad.
1994, wow. Where he simply did not inform the medical authorities that a resident's condition was severely worsening, resulting in the patient's death. He was constantly moved to different units as he never performed well at his current post. He was later diagnosed with a learning disability and attention deficit disorder. However, he was put on medication. Though he showed no true ability in his nursing career, he continued in the field, where he went from job to job as he inevitably made errors, some that might explain his behaviors online. In fact, in one nursing home he had worked at, he was fired for allegedly abusing 2 residents. This caused his license to be limited, though it deserved suspension. This negative employment history did not bode well, but it wasn't until Nadia's body was found 6 weeks after her disappearance, when the river warmed and her body washed up, that he truly felt the consequences of his actions. There seemed to be a surreal disconnect in Melkert Dinkle's head. He immediately told the police the truth, mostly. When the police interviewed him, he was surprisingly direct. Sergeant Hyder asked Melkert Dinkle about his online interactions, and he immediately removed his wife from the equation and also admitted he'd used the pseudonyms Lee Dow, Falcon Girl, and Cammy. He was clear when he said he advised people online about suicide methods. However, interestingly, he never admitted to watching any suicide via webcam, not even Mark Drybrows. The police, however, did find that he had made multiple suicide pacts, around a dozen, though he could only confirm of 5 that effectively did end up taking their lives. In an interesting juxtaposition, Melkert Dinkle admitted that he enjoyed the thrill of the chase, but he also claimed to tell his victims that they'd be better off in heaven. Nonetheless, these 2 contrasting sentiments cannot exist simultaneously when one is an admission of a semi-fetish for death. The pseudo-benevolent nature of claiming his victims would be better in heaven seems like an easy line to say, but a hard one to back up. While morally this case is as open and shut as it can be, what does the law say? Is this a question of free speech and personal accountability?
No.
Can Nadja's death be truly connected to Melkert Dinkel, as she did not end up using his hanging strategy at the end after all? These questions plagued the families of Mark and Nadja, as for them and most others, Melkert Dinkel was the drop that made the glass overflow. Had there been a Blay or a Low at the time, perhaps the discussions would have led to healthy solutions. Legally, the battles were messy, as might be expected in cases that involve not only free speech, but intention, as well as the internet. In 2011, Melkert Dinkel was charged with advising, encouraging, or assisting Kajuji and Drybrow in killing themselves using internet correspondence. As the case was underway, he was ordered to stay offline. Additionally, Minnesota provides penalties for those who encourage or assist in suicide.
Good.
The punishment can be up to over a decade in prison, on top of a $30,000 fine. Melkert Dinkel received a meager 360 days in jail.
Oh,
just
fuck
under
you.
1 year. However, in 2012, the Court of Appeals affirmed the conviction, which led to the Supreme Court's review of the case. In 2014, the Supreme Court reversed the conviction and remanded. Apparently, Melkert Dinkel's conviction was not entirely constitutional, as advising and encouraging suicide was protected by the First Amendment. However, speech that assisted suicide was not protected. In the end, Rice County District Judge Thomas Newville sentenced William Melkert Dinkel to 3 years in prison, but suspended the sentence to 360 days in jail, along with the abiding by the terms of his probation for 10 years. Melkert Dinkel was convicted of assisting the suicide of Mark Drybrow and attempting to assist the suicide of Nadja Kajuji. Melkert Dinkel has said, quote, "I am sorry for my actions and what I have done. I have repented."
No, you haven't.
Even though he has been released from jail for 5 years now, his lawyer continues to appeal the conviction. This entire case is an accurate reflector of how everything on the internet is permanent, yet in some ways fleeting. If Mark had not crossed paths with Lee Dow at that very moment, or if Nadja hadn't corresponded with Cammy at that very time. This case only exemplifies that while everything that happens on the internet is permanent in some ways, in others the timing is pivotal. The pure coincidence of being on a website at the same time as a stranger in and of itself can feel surreal, let alone when the stranger is prepared to do the unthinkable. The most haunting part of this case is that Melkert Dinkel, with his knowledge, along with his wife's, could have been actively saving lives. He could have...
That's the thing. He's a nurse. Like, that's their job.
Have been one of the families thanked when their children survived the darkest days of their lives. Yet he chose to be worse. A grim reaper who cannot even face his own actions.
She was 19.
Thank you for watching. Your support means a lot to me.
I'm just disgusted. Yeah, I know. Free speech, you have the right, but come on. Free speech is one thing. Yes. But we all know there are things that you cannot say, you know, in a crowded building or a crowd. You can't say a fire. You can't make threats against the president. We understand that. But also there should be things like this where you cannot take advantage of people who are in these weakened mental states. And I don't care what's wrong with him. I really don't care. As far as I'm concerned, he should be dead. I have nothing else I can say that's going to be positive. I just go on a curse rant right now. I'm so pissed right now. And just think, I chose this video. So who's the real asshole? Oh, man. Wow. Mr. Gavagan, this is a damn good video. Wow. Well, anyways, I hope you like the video is a bad term. Yeah, I don't know how to phrase it, so I'm just not going to. Like and subscribe. Refer a friend. Get it. Refer a friend to subscribe to my channel, and YouTube will give you a $100,000 bonus that can be used on Apple. But you can only buy Google products, which doesn't make any sense, but that's YouTube's thing. So, void where prohibited. Have a good day or a good night, but just don't be the guy in this video. And props to those ladies for hunting him down. That's very cool. I'm going to go ahead and end this. But, yeah, have a good day, have a good night. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next one. Bye-bye.